Board members Beatty?
Do you say Beatty? Here.
Yes. Duggar?
Here.
Hartmeyer Brigg?
Here.
Husson?
Here.
Roy Kim? Has anybody heard from Roy? Okay, mark
Mark
him,
him
have
as
none.
excused.
we'll mark him absent for now. Edward Kimmy?
Here.
Teeter?
Here.
Tiff non-marking excused. Olvin?
Here.
Fitco?
Here.
Walton, here.
Sorry, Walton.
Okay. Well, since tonight is a joint meeting, I will be chairing the meeting. Why it's a joint meeting, I have no idea. I don't know the difference between a joint meeting of the City Council and Bureau versus Bureau where the City Council is there. But here we are in our joint meeting together. So we're going to start with visitor comments. Do we have any visitor comments tonight? Anyone wishing to address the board?
No, we do not.
Okay. All right. I was a little shocked to see everyone not running to the microphone. So we're going to start with our first agenda bill, Bureau Bill 2023-4. It's a joint Bureau Board Beaverton City Council work session on the Beaverton Downtown Loop Complete Streets Plan. So I'm going to turn it over to Jean. If you can introduce your team and whoever is talking, the floor is yours.
Terrific. Thank you, Mayor Beatty and councilors and Bureau board members. I'm Jean Seneschal-Biggs. I'm the Transportation Planning Manager in the Community Development Department. It's great to join you tonight to talk about the Downtown Loop Complete Street Plan. I am the reason you're a joint work session, so we're covering both groups in one time. So thank you for making this work. You're just going to be hearing from me tonight, but as the mayor said, just know that there's a much larger team behind all this work to get us here this evening. So with that, I'll kick us off. Can you please share my slides, Jessica? Terrific. Okay, thank you. So the Downtown Loop Complete Street Plan. This project is a partnership between the city and Bureau. Bureau funded the planning phase and we're close to completing this work. The project team is in our final round of community engagement to gather comments on the project's preferred alternative, which is the conceptual design that the team developed based on stakeholder input from early 2022. With the concept plan for the proposed changes in place, it sets the stage for our next steps. So what is the loop? The loop is a bold and transformative vision to link Old Town and Beaverton Central with transportation investments on Hall Boulevard, Watson Avenue, and 5th Street that support a vibrant and inclusive downtown. We're reimagining our streets and sidewalks to create an exciting pedestrian experience, something that we heard consistently from Bureau board members and the council when we've spoken to you in the past. Next slide. So as I go through the presentation, please keep these questions in mind to guide your discussion tonight, and I'll share these again at the end of the presentation. Next slide. Great. So we're on a path to adopting the Loop Plan. March and April are busy with engagement activities to inform the community and gather feedback. We're here tonight with this joint work session. We'll come back to Bureau next month on April 25th for a brief presentation with our draft report and to share updates on our community outreach. And then in May, Council will consider adopting the plan through council action. And as I said earlier, completing this planning phase with a high-level concept for the proposed changes sets the stage for our next steps. Next slide. So let's take a moment to celebrate the good news. The city's success last year in securing $2 million in federal grant funding and then another $4 million in federal funds puts us on a path to begin project development and preliminary design in fiscal year 23-24 with construction of a phase 1 demonstration project to follow. Next slide. And there's still lots of decisions to come in the next phase to refine the plan. We'll come back to you as those details are worked out. Next slide. So let's start here. The preferred alternative is based on our guiding principle of designing streets for people. It's about putting pedestrians first with sidewalks that are spacious and gracious, safe and universally accessible. It's about separating people biking from motor vehicles with continuous protected bike lanes. It's about improving the experience for people riding transit with better bus stops. It's about creating placemaking opportunities. And for people who come downtown by car for shopping, dining, and services, the loop creates a great experience outdoors and on foot to support what we call the park once and walk model. Next slide. In winter 2022, just over a year ago, we reached out to the community and Bureau with design alternatives and we asked for feedback. Hundreds of community members, visitors, and stakeholders have weighed in on the design options presented for the Beaverton Downtown Loop. Some, like the 22 people on our Community Advisory Committee, have dedicated significant time to study the conditions, learn about technical constraints, and weigh the balance of needs for the diversity of people requiring access to downtown sidewalks and transportation. Others have heard short presentations of the options and engaged in brief conversations with the project staff. And through an online survey tool, 321 individuals advocated for their interests and provided their insights on how the design options may be received in the community at large. Next slide. So before we dive into the changes we're proposing, let's first understand our existing roadway on Hall Boulevard and Watson Avenue. The right-of-way here is limited. It's typically about 60 feet wide. You'll see we have 9-foot wide sidewalks with street trees and ornamental street lighting on both sides. We have a 6-foot painted bike lane, 2 11-foot travel lanes, and 2 7-foot parking lanes. So to make space for wider sidewalks and protected bike lanes, the preferred alternative includes several key changes to the streetscape, including removing on-street parking on one side or on both sides, planting new street trees and replacing our canopy as we create new wider accessible sidewalk spaces, consolidating driveways to reduce conflicts between people biking and walking and people driving cars, adding traffic signals to provide better clarity between travel modes, slowing traffic to reach our target speeds of 20 miles an hour, and in some places, acquiring property for additional right-of-way. Sometimes it's slivers at the back of the sidewalk, sometimes it's 3 feet along an entire frontage so that we have space to build those wider sidewalks. Next slide. So let's just take a moment to orient you to this map of the loop area because we're going to be referring back to it. So Hall and Watson are a one-way couplet north and south, and that will remain. At the north end is Crescent Street, and that's the front door to the Reser. And at the south end is 5th Street, where we have City Park and the City Library. And in the middle are Canyon Road and Farmington Road and the Railroad. And all three are frequently cited by community members as barriers to walking and biking in our downtown. So the preferred alternative is defined by these 3 segments that you see highlighted in the green boxes. And all 3 create great pedestrian experiences throughout the loop. So let's walk through them. Let's go to the next slide. So this middle section we call the promenade extends from Milliken Way to 2nd Street. Next slide. So here you'll see 12-foot sidewalks on one side of the street and 18-foot wide sidewalks on the other. An 8-foot wide raised bike lane, we call it, this is cycle track, and then 2 11-foot travel lanes. Next slide. So what does that look like at the street level and how would we use that space? With these 18-foot wide sidewalks, you can see we can create lively places to gather, meet friends, enjoy downtown. We can support business activity with space for A-board signs and store displays and cafe tables. And we can ensure an accessible route by maintaining a clear pedestrian through zone. Next slide. So here we are at 1st and Watson. On the left photo, you'll see the existing condition today, and on the right, you get a sense of the space in that 18-foot wide sidewalk. You can also see the cycle track on the opposite side of the street and a new traffic signal at 1st and Watson. Next slide. So one of the things that we heard from our CAC, our Community Advisory Committee, is that there is no loop without addressing the crossings at Canyon and at Farmington. So how do we make crossing our 2 major urban streets a more comfortable and safer experience? So we do this here, and you'll see in the picture on the right. We do this by installing high visibility crosswalks with the ladder bar markings and green cross bike markings through the intersection which make people walking and biking more visible. We improve safety by timing the traffic signals with leading pedestrian intervals. This is when the walk sign goes on before the green light for the cars, so that pedestrians have a head start crossing the street and are more visible to people driving through the intersection. And then we also improve safety by removing the third travel lane approaching those intersections. It's one, so that we only have one lane of vehicles turning left or right into the crosswalks in these locations, but it also creates that space for the bike lane that just doesn't exist today. Okay, let's go to the next slide. So here at Holland Canyon, the plan proposes, again, using pavement markings that highlight the space for people walking and biking, giving priority to pedestrians with a head start when they cross, removing that third travel lane to create space for bikes that doesn't exist today. And here in this location, removing the right turn slip lane on the southeast corner of the intersection, so that cars turning from Hall onto Canyon have to make that turn much slower than they do today. Next slide. So we're going to move to the Old Town portion. Let's go to the next slide. So here's our cross section. Different here from the promenade is that you'll see the parking return on one side of the street. So we have here 12-foot sidewalks on both sides, a 7-foot cycle track, 2 11-foot travel lanes, and a 7-foot flex zone. And I'll explain what that means in a minute. Next slide. So now here's an image of the 12-foot sidewalk adjacent to the 7-foot cycle track. And you'll see here how the sidewalk space for people walking is separated from the cycle track by the furnishing zone with its street trees and other site furnishings. Visual and tactile cues help separate the space between these modes. Next slide. And then here's an image of the 12-foot sidewalk adjacent to the flex use zone. So here you can see a parked car, but you can also see outdoor dining in that same space. Next slide. Okay, so what about that flex zone? As we move forward with the loop, we can have more conversations about how we manage that space at the curb for a number of uses to serve our residents and the business community. It doesn't just have to be parking for cars. It can be used for on-street bike parking, truck loading, outdoor dining, and even very short-term spaces for ride sharing and food delivery. The thing to keep in mind too is that the loop also leverages the hundreds of on-street parking spots in the blocks around the loop to support business activity and those who drive downtown. Next slide. So as I mentioned earlier, the preferred alternative includes planting new street trees and replacing our tree canopy as we create these new wider sidewalk spaces. So the image on the left shows how the existing trees narrow our already narrow sidewalks even more, barely meeting required sidewalk widths on much of Hall and Watson. So as we move into the next stage of the project, we'll work with the city arborist to identify several species of trees that work well in a Main Street environment and that are resilient and adaptable to climate change. But I also want to note that there are some trees that will stay. These are the trees alongside City Park and the City Library and the library lot, where we propose minimal alterations to those sidewalks. These ones were built more recently and they serve the adjacent use as well. Next slide. Okay, we're here in the last stretch in Beaverton Central. I'll just keep this brief. Next slide. So here's our cross section. We have 12-foot sidewalks on both sides, a 7-foot protected bike facility, a cycle track again, 2 11-foot travel lanes, and a 7-foot flex zone. And it's in this section that you can see the potential for creating 15-foot wide sidewalks by securing an additional 3 feet of right-of-way through redevelopment. This concept of dedicating right-of-way can apply to any frontage along the loop with 12-foot sidewalks, but in Beaverton Central, where we have parking lots fronting Hall and Watson and not existing buildings, there's obvious potential. Next slide. Okay, so that was a lot in a little time, and thank you for listening, and I welcome your thoughts and questions.
Council President.
Thank you, Jean. I feel lucky that I got to see this last night because it gave me time to think about questions too. I guess I'm curious. Well, I really love the kind of zones and the mix of the different styles of design to adapt to the amount of right-of-way we have. I'm especially excited about the reduction of the lanes from 3 to 2 because those intersections just feel so intense. And they just don't indicate that you're going into like that high pedestrian area. So I'm super excited about those changes in particular. And I also really loved to see the both the pedestrian like ladder crosswalk and the green bike. It just feels like, hey, you are entering into a different area, you know, like I love all the visual cues because we know that not everyone reads things. We kind of, you know, right now we've talked, I think, with this group about how those roads often feel like a little speedway. And so I love that there's so much incorporated here to really help give drivers that like visual clue, like something is different, slow down, you know. And the flex use space I also really love. Like seeing that little like ride share spot. It's like that really feels like the loop is the destination when you like put up a like ride share drop off. So I think that's really cool. Not sure if that's actually planned other than just that flex use could be used for that. But I think the things that my questions are on are in the I forget the terminology you used, the part where the trees can go. On that spot, I know like, so for everyone else's context, I had Climate Action Task Force last night. So Jean and I got to hear some feedback on that. I guess I'm curious, like, is the best practice to kind of give the trees like a box, or could that whole thing be like a strip of foliage, or is it like for maximizing the use of the like actual usable space of the sidewalk, we kind of go with like the planter box style of the trees?
Yeah, so that's the furnishing zone you're trying to remember.
Thank you.
That is the term. You're welcome. I think that's a level of detail we still have to figure out. Yes, we heard some really helpful feedback and sort of even design guidance from one of our members of the Climate Action Task Force. I think there's multiple things that have to fit in that space. It's where our street trees go. It's also where our street lights go. We have ornamental street lights today, and so we propose putting new street lights in. And then even other things like hydrants. There's a few other things that have to land in that space, but I think we have the opportunity to think creatively about the width of that space, the length of that space, because really what we heard was advocacy around please get the space and soil and all the conditions right for those trees to thrive. That was my takeaway from the feedback last night. So we can definitely work on that for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. And I was thinking also about how like, I don't know what the needs for the loop are in terms of like stormwater, but I also think of like furnishing
that as well,
like a stormwater capture area, right? And you know how like there's been that trend of like there's actually certain types of trees and shrubs that are great for kind of capturing like in those little water. I don't know the technical terms, but
no, you're on the right path. Very much so. Yes, that is also something we'll need to consider. Clean Water Services has standards that we'll be looking at how do we apply them here along the loop. So for sure.
Cool. Thanks, Jean.
Thank you.
Councilor Duggar.
Thanks, Jean, for this. Couple questions for you. I'm really excited about it. So this is really fantastic work. Couple things. Are we addressing the lack of sidewalk on both sides of Watson between Crescent and Canyon, particularly on the east side? So I figured that was an easy one, but how are we addressing, right now, I walk this area a lot, and one of the things that I think I'm curious to get your thoughts on is like right turns from Farmington onto Watson. Okay, that's a really terrible experience right now as a pedestrian. Folks turning into the loop from Farmington, right? How are we going to address that? Is that going to be like a signal thing, or is it going to be an actual design element of this? I love, to Councilor Hartmeyer-Prigg's point, the green cycle track and the wide ladder for pedestrians, I think are really good, but the ladder exists right now and people just drive right through it to turn right onto Watson. So how are we going to address that from a design perspective? And then I have one more question after that.
Okay, sure, great. No, I think you raise a good point. I think there's both some signal tools and some signage and design. Those will be sort of more details we'll work out in the next phase, but I can picture that turn. It's the eastbound to southbound turn.
Yeah, and my concern lies, we've got a couple really great places to grab a beer or a drink right there, and not much of a stretch for you to see where I'm going with this, where there's not a whole lot of room for errors there from pedestrians or drivers. So I'm really concerned about that. My last question, can you tell me a little bit about signage, particularly wayfinding for bikes and pets? Because I didn't really see that. Like, is that part of this plan or is that kind of later? And then, like, what about placemaking signing, right? I want people to know the loop, Central Beaverton, right? Like, is there opportunities for us to think about signage as a placemaking within the loop, right? Like, welcome to Central Beaverton. You think about Portland and Christmas with the Portland, Oregon sign with the little reindeer nose that they add. Like those are really cool and special. And I would hate to see, the decade that more than maybe 2 decades at the time we're finished with this, like people not recognize, and us not take an opportunity to use signage to create a brand for Central Beaverton, right? So thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, it's interesting because you bring up signage. Early on in our planning process, our community advisory committee did an exercise we called Picture the Loop, and they went out and they took photos of what they saw as assets and what they thought needed to change. And it was remarkable how many people found the wayfinding signs that we currently have today on the loop. And it resonated with people in terms of having something that was communicating to them about where they were and what services are downtown. And so that's something that I think is really definitely worth exploring more. How can we use what we have today? How can we refine it? What more might we need? Just on that, how you find your way around downtown piece. I like hearing your thoughts about thinking bigger in terms of sort of what marks downtown Beaverton. And I like your analogy with the Portland, Oregon sign, the White Stag sign. Something that we'll be doing in this next phase with the RAISE grant is to do a study for a new bridge over Beaverton Creek up at the north end. And the thought there is that really that becomes an opportunity to create a signature bridge, something that's marking that entry as you're coming into downtown. We can do a little more thinking about the sort of the south end as you enter, but there's definitely some opportunity there. So I like hearing your ideas. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I love all this. Keep at it. It feels like the appropriate level of progress has been made to get us as far as we have, and I'm really proud of the work. It's really fantastic. As a Beaverton resident, to a Central Beaverton resident, I'm super excited for this. Like, this is going to be obviously transformative, but just in the day to day, not even going to the loop. I'm just going to a downtown business to grab a coffee or something. It's going to be transformative. So I'm really excited about this.
Perfect.
Board Member Olden.
I concur with all the praise. This is super exciting. And most importantly, I am glad to see the pedestrian and bicyclist safety improvements. And you had mentioned that you will be installing some lights and other things. Are you doing any other traffic calming? Do you have any other traffic calming plans?
Yeah, I would say not specific, like what you might think of traditional traffic calming with speed bumps. There are particularly more on at some of the corners, we're able to bring out the corner through curb extensions to help shorten that crossing distance and make pedestrians more visible. That's what's coming top of mind right now in the moment. But yeah, I'd say less of the sort of your traditional traffic calming and more using pavement markings and signs and signal tools to help us slow traffic, right? And get those speeds that we'd like to see.
Super. Thank you so much. Great job.
Thank you.
Councillor Hassan?
Yeah, thanks, Jean, for the presentation. It's funny, board member Owen, that was my same question around traffic calming. I think just this is beautiful. I love all the folk. I'm not going to repeat what other people said. So let me just what I want to say though is that I want to make sure, like, from a policy and like data perspective, that like the traffic calming and or tools that we're using, whether it's really bright strips, colors, like that is something that we know is going to achieve what we want. You know this, Jean, but I think everyone knows this. I drive Hall every day as I drop off my daughter to school, so I take that long way. I think I come across 3 to 4 different speed limits. And so just making sure that we're intentionally making sure people know where it's 20, where it's 40, right? And like, are there traffic calming things that we should be considering that would help? Is the color and the right signage doing the right work? Like, I don't need to know the details of that, but I just want to make sure we're using the right information to make those decisions, because I do think that there's a really big shift from going on Hall from Cedar Hills until you get to Canyon, until you get to Allen, and I do this like every day. Just making sure we're really thinking about signage. I know you're doing that. I just wanted to make sure I said it for everyone else to hear. I don't know if you have any comments or thoughts.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. What's interesting is today and along much of the loop, basically, I think south of Milliken, it's posted 20 miles an hour already. I think there's more we can do to help encourage and get those speeds to hit that target speed of 20. There's national guidance and standards that we're following in terms of like why it's green. I won't get into it, but all of that is best practice. And then I appreciate your comments about sort of how do we ensure that we're going to get I think you're sort of saying, how do we ensure that we're going to get the results that we want to see? So that's helpful to hear. And I'll definitely kind of keep that in mind as we keep moving forward. So.
And I appreciate your comment. Like, the green has some stuff behind it. I don't need to know what it is, right? So are there other innovative things or ways of signage and or traffic calming that are best practices that we can bring here that we should be using? I'd want to make sure that we're thinking about that. And I know and believe that you do. So thank you.
Yeah, great. Okay, thank you.
Councilor Teeter.
Thanks, Jean, and thanks, Dan, and the team too. I have a few comments. One, you mentioned new streetlights going in. I think the downtown design code might allow up to 15 feet tall. I don't remember exactly, but I would encourage us to do like 12 feet or so, because once it gets above 12 feet, the light shines in the second floor windows of the apartments, like along First Street as an example. But if we're getting more residential units, I'd like to keep it a little dimmer on their floors. The leading pedestrian signals, I think those are great. If we can consider those or have those for micro mobility too, that helps keep people riding scooters or bikes safe as well. John brought up the Farmington and Watson intersection, and when he mentioned cars turning right onto Watson from Farmington, I initially thought he was talking about turning right the wrong direction up Farmington to go north, because sometimes that happens too. People are coming from the east and heading west on Farmington and turn the wrong way to go against traffic. So concern I have moving forward is that Watson, Farmington, and Broadway like interchange with the railroad there. It seems to be incredibly confusing for people, and people get stuck on the tracks or backing up in the middle of the street, and it's a mess. So I'd like to see more detail there in the future. And I actually think that's it, but I think you all done great work, and I support the preferred approach moving forward.
Thank you so much.
Councilor Kimmy.
Yeah, thank you so much. Just a few questions. The why different styles or different widths of sidewalk? That's the first question. I kind of get why, but then I just want to make sure the process behind having different width of sidewalk and styles.
Sure. So I'd say in that promenade section, what we're really trying to do is create a sidewalk space that has that ample width so that it can really be an active space. It can be, used for, it creates that space so we can have places for people to sit, places for people to gather, for the storefront activity to be able to activate that sidewalk space with displays or cafe tables. And then also just having a wider space for people to pass each other on the sidewalk, or two people to walk side by side and be able to pass a third person. That's what we get in that wider sidewalk space. it's just space that we just don't have today. It's a very different experience from what we have right now with those 9-foot sidewalks that are so narrow. The 12-foot is really the minimum you'd want to go for a Main Street type environment. It gives you just enough to be able to have those 3 zones to accommodate the through movements, but also have that frontage zone in front of the storefront building and the furnishing zone for trees and all of the other stuff that has to go in the right of way. And then in that particularly, we talked about Beaverton Central and those 15-foot wide sidewalks. The getting another 3 feet would make all the difference for a storefront space. So imagine new buildings getting built there. Those storefronts will be active ground floor uses, and they'll want to have that space to be able to use. So does that help answer?
Right. My assumption was that because of the current businesses, that's how you're trying to accommodate. Am I on the right path?
Yeah, there's some current businesses, and it's also needing to be a little bit future and forward looking about what's possible in our downtown through our new development code.
Okay.
So we're doing a looking at today and looking forward at the same time, right? It's hard, but that's what we're up to.
Another question is, ODOT is doing sidewalks right now on Canyon and Watson and everywhere.
Right.
So they're incorporating our complete street design right now, or?
No, the little bit I can say about that project, that's a project to upgrade the corners with new ADA compliant curb ramps. And also you'll see in some places they've put in some new signal equipment, so those push buttons are accessible for people that use mobility devices. That's part of a larger project that they're doing statewide, replacing ramps everywhere. So that's why you see them doing that work. Yeah.
So then they're gonna have to we're gonna have to work with them when we're doing actually the loop project.
When we do the loop, when we're on Canyon Road, they'll be part of that design process. We'll be very much actively engaged with them, and we make those design decisions.
Okay, so we might have to do it over, basically.
Yes, we would. Yes, because those corners are based on today's sidewalk width, so we would be replacing those as part of the project. We're still a few years out from building something, so it's good that they're getting those new ramps in today. They're going to serve people from starting now.
Okay, it's kind of maybe a dumb question, but I saw that the bike lane is 7 feet. Is that like a legal requirement? It's not the same as like a flex space. That's why.
It's a bit of the math, the geometry of that 60 feet of right of way that we have. So in some places it's 8, in some places it's 7. So you did pick up on that. It's really more of that's kind of a recommended width for a facility like that. Again, kind of based on national guidelines, what other cities are building and doing to create that type of facility. You want to have enough space that, it feels comfortable to be riding there. You're not feeling squeezed on your bike.
Oh, okay. Because I'm wondering, is that you're looking for like 2 bikes going at the same time or something? But I understand. One last thing is, when coming down Hall, you're trying to achieve 2 lanes, right? 2 car lanes. Then what about the left turns? Are they going to be separate left turn or?
No, at this point, what we're proposing is to take out that 3rd lane. In some places, it's a dedicated right turn lane or a dedicated left turn lane.
Right.
So each lane you'd have 2 lanes. It would be either through right or through left. As you saw in that earlier slide, there's quite a bit of traffic analysis we're going to be doing in this next phase, and we'll be bringing back what we learned to all of you. That's going to create some change in our downtown. That's part of a tool we have to help really slow traffic. When you come through downtown, it's going to be a different experience. It might take you a little longer to get through downtown because of that. So we want to better understand what those physical design changes might look like on the ground and as people experience a loop, so that you all have that information to really to make that decision about how we move forward with the project.
Right.
So you'll hear from us again.
Yeah, because when you're driving, there's a lot of cars when there's 2 lanes going forward and then somebody's trying to turn left. there are a lot of people who just jump out and trying to cut through the right lane because they don't want to wait. And I don't want to create that in a downtown where somebody's erratically driving, and just concern that I have. But thank you for all the designs.
Yeah,
Thank
great.
you.
Thank you.
Board Member Walton.
Yeah, I'll make mine super quick. Agree with everything that has been said. Just one comment. I didn't see it in the renderings. I know it's being comprehended, but is the bike racks. So as the bike lanes get improved, it's already sort of hard. And then as you get, like, we have one of the bigger e-bikes with like the thing on the back for the kids. And the way that the bike racks are super close to the cars right now is like a dangerous proposition. Ours fell over and caused some Mercedes damage. So I love that there won't be cars there to sort of cause that damage, but just the like thoughtfulness about like, you know, sort of bigger, heavier electric bikes, just sort of in the back of the plan. But like more bike racks, if you create a better
Yes,
environment for bikers, very, very necessary. So I love the work. I'm super excited about it. Again, I'm traversing this area all the time, and I really look forward to this. So
Terrific. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, Jean, I feel like all I do is talk about the loop, so I don't think anyone needs to hear more comments on me on the loop. I have one question. What is the difference between a cycle track and a bike lane?
Okay, I would differentiate it by a bike lane would be a painted bike lane on the asphalt pavement, right? Like you see, like we've been doing for years and years. A cycle track is raised. In this case, we're proposing that our bike facility be at the sidewalk level. It would drop down at the intersections, would ramp down, you cross the street, and it would come back up. So it's raised, so you have that physical, you have vertical separation and physical separation from vehicles.
Okay, because I only thought about cyclocross and was just wondering what kind of competitions we're going to have down here. I'm here for it. No bike lane or no electric bike, Sarah. You have to use your quad power for that. But I look forward to a friendly race with Councilor Teeter and Sarah when we open up our cyclocross track.
Perfect.
All right. Do you need any more information from us?
I don't think so. Thank you all so very much.
Okay, well, my official mediation of this meeting is over. I'm ready to hand it back to Vice Chair Walton, if she's ready to take control of the meeting.
you bet. Okay. All right. We will speed through the rest of this. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes. So is there a motion to approve the Bureau minutes of November? That is not right. Of February 28th. I don't think we need to approve November.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? All right. Would the recorder please call roll for the vote?
I think we've got that date wrong on the minutes.
Yeah, I think it's February 28th.
I showed November 29th for minutes.
Yeah.
Okay, who was the first and second?
I seconded. I don't know who it first was.
This is Cassandra.
Olden.
I made the motion.
Okay. Recorder.
Beatty,
Yes.
Duggar,
Yes.
Hartmeyer-Prigg,
Yes.
Husson,
Yes.
Roy Kim,
Yes.
Edward Kimmy,
Yes.
Teeter,
Abstain.
Olden,
Yes.
Vitko,
Abstain.
Walton.
Yes. Okay, we have two business items tonight. The first is Agenda Bill 2023-47 regarding an update of Bureau's portfolio redevelopment strategy. So Ms. Lambert, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Janine Lambert, Senior Development Project Manager, Community Development. Tonight, I'm just here to introduce Alex Joyce and be here for any questions regarding the Bureau portfolio redevelopment strategy in progress. So Alex, I'm turning it over to you.
Great. Wonderful to see everyone tonight. I'm Alex Joyce with Cascadia Partners and representing our team, and we've been working closely with city staff on a 5-month process to develop a redevelopment strategy for the 5 properties owned in the downtown area by Bura. And our team includes urban planners, real estate economists, and urban designers. And we've been really thrilled to be a part of this process and have made some significant progress that we wanted to update you on this evening. So our objectives for tonight are just to review some of the foundational goals and objectives. This body of work that we're working on now stands on the shoulders of literally decades of previous planning efforts, some that have ideas that are as rich today as they were when they were originally written, pulling those threads through this work. And we want to update you on some of the analysis and some of the outreach that we've gotten through in this process, reviews our observations about the sites, their strengths, some of their weaknesses, and some of the key questions that we're wrestling with as a team to define strategies to capitalize on opportunities and overcome weaknesses. And then do some confirmation and check in with you on whether the work program that we're on and that we're going to be embarking on in the next 2 months to wrap things up addresses the fundamental topics of interest to this group. And then if the questions that we identified later on in the presentation are covering the key ones that you feel like need to be answered. So with that, it's sort of a reminder of the history. It was really actually fun for me personally to revisit some of these planning documents that have shaped downtown Beaverton, and really amazing to see the progress that you and your staff have made in reshaping the identity and the vibrancy of downtown. And all of these and all of the ideas have been pulled into our thinking and our collective, this process. And one thing I want to call out is that there's the recently adopted downtown equity strategy that we're leaning on in terms of the outreach and the aspirations and the goals. This development strategy will center equity as part of it. And in addition, we re-engaged with about 20 BIPOC members of the community, business owners, entrepreneurs, homeowners, residents, to take a fresh look at some of our ideas as well and solicit input for the process. So we're standing on a body of work, but our project purpose is really about creating a high-level plan, strategy that's actionable, but also flexible. This moment in time is a challenging one from a development perspective. Interest rates are at an all-time high. Construction costs are at historic highs. So there's no shortage of sort of macro level challenges facing the development world, but this plan will be flexible as market conditions change. You can capitalize on opportunities and be prepared to capitalize on those opportunities. The strategy is really about creating a unique strategy for each site, a holistic vision for all of the sites in downtown, but a unique strategy for each of the sites that is tailored to each site's unique strengths and weaknesses and opportunities, and lays out an approach to the way that you utilize your land that accounts for both the market realities and the need to generate tax increment revenue, but also balances those realities against your aspirations and goals related to affordability and equity and sustainability. And again, it's a strategy that can shift with any changing conditions coming in the future. So the project is really defined by 4 key phases compressed into this 5-month timeline. So we've gone through a very intensive learning stage. We have done some testing and evaluation on each of the sites. Today, we just wrapped up day 2 of a very intensive staff and consultant charrette process that we'll be able to update you on shortly. It's hot off the presses. And then we're moving now, pivoting literally as of today, with your guidance after this meeting, into the strategy development phase. So we've done a lot of learning and testing and working together. And this is really where we spend the next 2 months to develop the strategy, get confirmation, and finalize it, and then move into your adoption process. As part of our engagement efforts, we've had this downtown BIPOC focus group, which I mentioned. We conducted a series of 8 developer interviews representing nonprofit developers, for-profit developers of all sizes. In April, we're going to be conducting a virtual open house to solicit a wider array of input on some of these key ideas. And staff will be leading a series of presentations to various boards, committees, and task forces as well over the next 4 weeks. So it's a rapid process, but a process that has a lot of engagement as well. So just a quick reminder, the 5 sites in your portfolio that we're evaluating are 2 clustered right around the BG food cart pod, the sites 1 and 2, BC 2 site, Beaver Dam West. The Lombard West site located near the Max station, the Buffet site on the north end, and the Broadway East lot on the south end. And really the question is, how can each of these sites and their unique strengths and weaknesses help you implement your vision, broader vision for downtown and the Borough area, and your policy objectives? And they all have their unique strengths and weaknesses. The key questions that we're keeping front and center as we go through this process are really defined by, what uses should be prioritized. So, what uses are missing from downtown currently, what uses would catalyze additional development in downtown if they could just be proven in the market, what uses are in desperate need, like affordable housing and affordable commercial space. And once we understand what's the priority set of uses, which of these uses will require, public and boroughs additional attention or investment in to make happen. Not all uses can happen in the marketplace today, and so we have to prioritize, and there's not an endless amount of money, so there has to be a prioritization of where can borough make the biggest impact in terms of those uses. Where are the most strategic sites? Location, location, location is the adage in real estate, and it applies to a development strategy as well. So certain of these sites are in locations that have more strategic advantages in the near term. We want to identify that and sequence your strategy to take advantage of the strengths of their location, but also your internal capacity to sort of work through each of them. What are the first moves? What are the moves that are going to have the biggest impacts on each of these sites? And then what are longer term moves that can help position some of these sites that are not immediate movers to be successful? And then at the end of the day, what happens on these sites and the success of them will be defined by who benefits. Who are we trying to serve? And also, as a result of this development, are there impacts that we need to be considering in terms of gentrification or displacement, et cetera? So those are the questions that we have top of mind as we go through this process. I wanted to fill you in a little bit on some of the feedback that we've gotten from our communications with stakeholder groups. So from the BIPOC focus group, which is about 20 folks that were gathered in a facilitated discussion by our team, a couple of things came through loud and clear, and that was a whole theme around sort of making the night market permanent, which has its own sort of generating vitality and activity for the downtown area, but it also presents an opportunity to provide business incubation, affordable business and entrepreneur space, so accessible business space within the downtown area. Beaverton has done a heck of a job at creating a desirable market from a retail perspective. But the other side of that coin is it's becoming increasingly expensive for people to get a toehold in the retail environment and to be an entrepreneur. And so thinking creatively how to create culturally responsive places, but also places that can allow folks to get on the economic ladder from a business perspective. Beaverton is a family-friendly place, but catering to families requires supporting those families. So childcare and support for parents in terms of more childcare, places, businesses or services, but also taking into consideration designing for children and for families in the public places that are designed and incorporated into these developments is important. There's a missing opportunity that folks identified, which is access to higher education and services, certain types of services. So certain types of campuses or training, job training, skill building that ought to be contemplated and was communicated that it feels like it's a missing element. And then affordable housing is always an issue that comes up. And the amenities that go into those affordable housing, who are they intended to serve? Are they family-sized units? And if they're family-sized units, do they have all of the associated amenities that can support those families? Ground floor, childcare, active or safe outdoor play areas for children, and multi-generational living. So an emphasis on the ability for families, larger extended families, to be able to live in the same building. So those are some of the themes that came through in the BIPOC focus group. With the developer interviews, there were some really positive reception in terms of or positive feedback in terms of the value proposition that Beaverton offers. You all have done a tremendous job in creating an environment there that is very attractive for investment, and it's a bright spot in the region. When we look at the region as a whole, Beaverton stands out really in terms of its attractiveness for retail and for multifamily. So living and playing and working, it's well positioned as an alternative to some of the challenges in Portland and Multnomah County, and it really does have a business-friendly identity. But there were also some takeaways that pointed to some areas where the city might want to consider leaning in. So, the downtown is really defined by and constrained by fast, busy highways that don't have a very friendly pedestrian environment. Parts of downtown still feel very suburban and are defined by surface parking lots. And in terms of the arrival into downtown, which we'll talk a little bit about in terms of the sites, there's a lack of a clear downtown identity. There's not this aha moment when you arrive that clearly delineates that I've arrived in downtown Beaverton, or beyond this intersection lies downtown Beaverton. And then going big on a major best-in-class green space. So some folks were aware of some of the improvements made to the creek, Beaverton Creek, but others weren't. But in terms of a magnet of activity, of people, and of desirability, a major focal green space was pointed out as a central ingredient. When we step back and we look at the market conditions in Beaverton, they are very strong in many of the traditional market segments. So from a residential perspective, there's very low vacancy rates. So there's a lot of demand for the multifamily. Residential single family home prices have escalated rapidly. That has two sides of that coin, obviously. And also with retail and multifamily are standouts in terms of Beaverton's strength relative to its peers in the region. So Portland, Hillsborough, Lake Oswego, and then the metropolitan area as a whole. Those are some bright spots that you've been, the desirability of those spaces has outpaced the region. Similarly with office, there's been a demand for an as of yet unmet need or unmet demand for higher quality, high amenity office space. There is challenges in getting that kind of use financed currently. There's high office vacancies in downtown Portland and in a lot of places, and that's making finance folks and investors skittish. And so there's some headwinds facing that, but there is a demonstrated need for certain types of office. And then hotel has rebounded from the lows of the COVID period and is coming out of the gate very strong. And Beaverton and Hillsborough are kind of the bright spots in the region. So are there opportunities for any or all of some of these uses at some point in time on the site? Market conditions are fairly strong, even in the face of headwinds of high interest rates and high construction costs. Another consideration that is important for an urban renewal agency to consider is what is the tax revenue generation of different use types, and it's important to just keep in the back of your mind amongst all of the other competing priorities and objectives here is that commercial uses. So, retail, hotel, office, those uses have a higher tax assessment ratio. So at almost twice that of newly built multifamily. So a newly built square footage of office is going to have twice as much tax revenue generation potential as the same square foot of newly built apartments. It's not to say that apartments aren't necessary and important, just one more factor to consider in decision making.
So Alex, we're going to have to go pretty quickly through these next slides.
Okay.
We have a hard stop before 7 and we still need Q&A. Thanks so much. Sorry, the other item went long.
Okay. No problem. So this is your, one of your flagship sites. It presents an opportunity for a downtown gateway. It's large enough to think about multiple uses, including potentially, an office type use. Beaver Dam West is, it looks sort of, like it's an odd shape, but there are plenty of development opportunities given its scale. The fate of Beaver Dam West, what is that fate? How can it define what happens on the site? Lombard West is adjacent to the transit center. How do you define transit-oriented development, and can you push the envelope on what that means? The Buffet site is an opportunity to bring an urban character to this rather suburban location potentially, and define an important corner, an intersection and gateway into downtown. Broadway East is, about the size of its small fabric sites to the west, and there's a lot of energy on Broadway. So is there an opportunity to just extend some of that energy further east? So I'll pause there and just ask if the program that the path we're on right now address the fundamental topics interest to the board, and if some of these questions resonate with you.
And quick question for Tyler or Bill. We have an item that we have to take a vote on, and we have 4 minutes. Do we need to do that?
Yeah, it should be a real quick one, Sarah, so we can capture that, and we'll probably not do the executive director report tonight.
Okay, so are we opening this up for questions?
I think we have about 2 minutes worth of questions, and we can also try to get a sense of what those questions are and maybe respond to them offline in a different format.
Okay, so the most impassioned folks in the room with the most burning questions, you have 35 seconds each. Nadia.
I don't have an impassioned question. I mean, I have a lot I want to say on this topic, and so I worry that we're rushing, but so I'll stop, but there's so much to dig in this.
Agreed. Tyler, how can we create the right forum? And Janine, question to you too on how do we give you guys what you need to keep moving without doing this topic a disservice with no discussion?
Yeah, I think that the biggest thing here, and Janine can correct me, but we wanted to introduce it tonight. We've got all these things that are happening and moving, and it was really important for us to be able to bring them to you in a public forum. We have had scheduled walkabouts with 3 or 4 Bureau board members at a time walking the site, so you're pretty familiar, and this was an opportunity for us to bring it public. And I think that was one of the key components of tonight's session.
Okay. Well, thank you, Alex, for the wonderful information. Janine and team for the work. Appreciate it very much. And look.
I just want to say, as we close out this item, that most importantly, April 19th will be the virtual open house. So I wanted to make sure everyone gets to attend that, and the website address URL for that was in the slide in the PowerPoint. And if that hasn't been posted online, we'll make sure that that gets posted. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, next item quickly is Agenda Bill 2023-48 regarding the Bureau Budget Committee reappointment. So Mr. Landry, please.
Yes, we're bringing forward to you 4 recommended appointees from staff for the Bureau Budget Committee. That would be Mandeep Bawa for reappointment, Kia Sundberg, Dylan Ballard, and Donaciano Mejia Hernandez for new appointments. They would start effective January 1 of this year, and the term would expire December 31st, 2025.
I'll make a motion to pass Agenda Bill 2023-48.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Okay, would the recorder please call roll?
Board members Beatty,
Yes.
Duggar,
Yes.
Hartman Prick,
Yes.
Hudson.
Yep.
Roy Kim,
Yes.
Edward Kimmy,
Yes.
Teeter,
Yes.
Oven,
Yes.
Bitco,
Yes.
Walton.
Yes. Okay, thank you. We have reached the end of what we can fit in for today's meeting. So the meeting is adjourned. Good luck in council.